Greetings. M squared, we're going to solve some more linear equations, one-step equations. If you looked at the last lesson, the thing that's different is that now we have fractions. So I'm going to show you how to do fractions. And also, it's a little bit trickier here because it doesn't say x plus something or x minus something. There's a sign in front of the x. So remember, we've got to do the opposites. So the most common mistake people make when the x isn't first in front of the constant is that they see this sign and ignore this sign. Got to be really careful. The only way to get rid of a negative 3 is to add 3. If I minus 3 here, I'd get a negative 6. And remember, I want to get rid of this because I'm trying to get x alone. So I don't minus 3 because there's a 3 behind it. I always look at the sign in front of a term. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. And when I do that, 12 plus 3 is 15. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0. 0 plus x is x. So 15 equals x. And if I plug that back in to check it, negative 3 plus 15 does equal 12. So I know that's my answer. Over here, I need to get rid of this 8. The sign in front of it, there isn't one, so I know it's positive. So I'm going to minus 8 from both sides. Negative 5 minus 8 is negative 13. This is another mistake people make. That's a minus x. So we're going to change that into a negative x, because if I minus x, that's what I get. I get a negative x. Notice x is not alone. I have a negative sign in front of it. Some people like to put a negative 1 right there so they can know what to divide by. So if that's a negative 1x and I need to get rid of it, I'm going to divide by whatever that is. So negative 1 divided by negative 1 equals 1. So now I'm left with 1x. Remember, you can put the 1 there or you can just leave it x. And negative 13 divided by negative 1 is positive 13. Because a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 13 divided by 1 is 13. If I want to check it, 8 minus 13 equals negative 5, and that's what that side said, so I'm good. Okay, this one has a fraction. There's two different ways to do it, and you'll have to decide which way you like the best. I'll try to do it both ways. So some people see this and they say, oh, the 1/4 is being multiplied by the x, so I need to divide. And that's fine. We can divide by 1/4. So x is equal to negative 2 divided by 1/4. If you remember your fraction rules, when you're dividing, the first one stays the same, and then you change your division sign to multiplication and you use the reciprocal of that fraction. That means you flip it over. So it was 1/4, so now it's 4 over 1. And then I multiply. What's negative 2 times 4? It's negative 8. Divided by 1 is still negative 8. That's one way to do it. And I can come up here and say, what's 1/4 of negative 8? It's negative 2, and that's what that says. The other way to think about it is, let me rewrite it for you, is to think of it as 1x divided by 4. So some people, when they see that, they imagine that the numerator of the fraction is multiplied by the x, and that the other one is divided, which it is. See, that little division sign. If we were to multiply fractions, remember it's top times top, bottom times bottom. You can put a little 1 under there and you get x over 4. So how do I get rid of a divided by 4? Well, I just multiply by 4. So both sides to multiply by 4. The 4 divided by 4 is 1. And 1 times 1x is just x. And 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. So you see, either way I get the same answer. You'll have to decide which way you like the best. So on this one, I'm going to choose to do it the reciprocal way. I didn't show you that. Oh, I've got to show you that, sorry. Another method when you have fractions is to think, okay, this 2 is being multiplied by the x, this 5 is being divided by the x. So we kind of take care of two things at once. We flip it over. So remember, that's one of your properties, is to, when you multiply a fraction by its reciprocal, you always get 1. And our goal is to get x alone, and when we just have 1x, it is alone. So the reason I multiply by 5/2 is because the division by 5, you get rid of that by multiplying by 5. That's why 5's on the top. And the timesing by 2, you get rid of by dividing by 2. So you can just remember the reciprocal rule when you have fractions and then just multiply. You could also, these cancel out, and I would just write down x. But you could also say 5 times 2 is 10, so I have 10x. And then 2 times 5 is 10. And 10x divided by 10, the 10's divide out to get 1, and I just have 1x. But I just know that when I multiply by a reciprocal, I get 1. So I have 1x. And then when I multiply over here, I get 4 times 5 is 20 divided by 2, and 20 divided by 2 is 10. I prefer to cancel first, but some people like to multiply across and then reduce later. But I over here, since I know this is a dividing sign, and I know that I can put the 4 in the numerator because it's kind of like 4 over 1. And then I say, how many times does 2 go into 2? Once. I'm canceling, reducing before I multiply. 2 goes into 4 2 times. And then on the bottom I have 1 times 1. On the top I have 2 times 5, which is 10, which equals 10. So either one of those ways. Those are a little trickier. Just remember, when you see a fraction as a coefficient of x, you get rid of it by multiplying both sides, because we always do the same thing to both sides, by the reciprocal of whatever fraction that is. And remember, reciprocal means you flip the fraction over. Good luck. M Squared signing out.